General Hospital spoilers hint that Michael Corinthos is sitting pretty now that Judge Eva Heron handed him full custody of the kids he had with Willow Tate. Willow was so horrified that she lost custody of Wiley Corinthos and Amelia Corinthos that she broke down in the courtroom and had to be hospitalized. But a revelation occurred in the June 19th show when it was discovered that Jen Sidwell paid off the judge for her judgment. Exactly what is going on in this situation? During the beginning of the summer, let's have a look at what might be going on in the PC world. Judge Heron was deceived by Sidwell. Sidwell's decision to bribe Judge Heron in order to ensure that Michael was victorious seems unexplainable. First off, Sidwell may be gathering ammunition against his mob foe Sonny Corinthos. That following day, Sidwell tried to negotiate with Sonny but was turned down. In this scenario, we can see Sidwell making Judge Heron disappear and blaming Sonny for the backdoor deal. Basically, Sidwell has the ability to threaten that Michael would lose custody of his children if Sonny does not begin collaborating with him. Will Sidwell blackmail Sonny? Think about it. If Sonny is distracted by a phony bribery case, the way for Sidwell's domination in PC just got smoother. Then again, Sidwell may plan to use Michael to convince Sonny to strike a deal for the peers. There is another alarming reason why Sidwell resorted to bribes. If he was the one behind the penthouse explosion, he could feel bad that Michael was the accidental target. In this circumstance, it may be that Sidwell believed he paid Michael back by giving him his kids. Why is Sidwell so interested in the peers? At the end of the day, Sidwell is a difficult villain. He has showed enormous devotion for his own son, Marco Rios, and may actually feel bad about what happened to Sonny's son. That would be giving the bad man a lot of credit, but everything is possible on soaps. Tell us, GH fans, why do you think Sidwell bribed a court to guarantee that Michael gained full custody of his children? Michael Corinthos had long become accustomed to traversing the dangerous emotional landscape of family, power, and history in Port Charles. But what he hadn't counted on was just how deep and dark the game might go when legal custody of his children became linked with influence from outside players. Especially someone like Grant Sidwell. A guy who was previously a peripheral figure in the convoluted web of Quartermaine Corinthos drama, was now emerging as a significant factor in the life of Michael's children, and not for any reasons Michael could easily fathom. When Sidwell abruptly entered into the conflict and seemed to throw his weight behind Michael in the legal struggle for custody, the entire town blinked. And Michael? He braced himself for collision. What people didn't comprehend was that Sidwell never did anything without an underlying motive. His newfound involvement in the family custody struggle was not founded out of goodwill or justice. It was frigid, calculated, savage, and its repercussions would soon unravel in ways that might transform the power structure of Port Charles forever. The initial custody conflict itself was already laden. Following the escalating unrest between Michael and Willow, and Sonny's failing control on both his personal life and his business empire, the environment for rearing Wiley and Amelia had become fraught with turbulence. Willow had begun wondering the emotional climate the children were growing up in. Michael, overwhelmed but resolute, wanted control, not only for himself, but to protect them from the instability that clung to the Corinthos name. There had been whispers that Willow was investigating temporary separation, maybe even a long-term shift in custody. And the instant Michael filed legal paperwork requesting full custody, lines were formed, and sides selected. Grant Sidwell's appearance on Michael's side of that courtroom struck shockwaves. Known for high-stakes financial manipulations and whispered agreements, he was never one to throw in with emotive causes. So why now? Why Michael? The truth was deeper than anyone realized. Sidwell, as it turned out, had an old vendetta. One that went back years, buried beneath layers of quiet and manipulation. It started with a disastrous business deal arranged by Sonny Corinthos' erstwhile associates, a front organization that had disguised itself as a respectable endeavor in Sidwell's early banking days. Nearly ruined him. Only a well-timed maneuver spared him from financial ruin, and he had spent years crawling back from the edge. He never forgot who put him there, Sonny. Over time, Sidwell watched as Sonny's empire flourished. He watched as Sonny's rivals either disappeared, went broke, or were absorbed into the machine that Sonny had established. And while most in Port Charles saw Sonny as either a hero or a villain with a complex heart, Sidwell saw something simpler. Sonny had harmed him, and Sidwell had waited for his opportunity to retaliate. Not through gunfire or violence, but through something far more personal. Bloodlines. Michael was Sonny's son. Or at least he had been raised that way. But he was also something more complicated. A Corinthos by choice, a Quartermain by birth, and a man imprisoned between the two worlds. Sidwell saw opportunity in Michael's rocky relationship with Sonny. Chance to remove the Corinthos legacy from its heir. When Sidwell reached out to Michael through a secret intermediary, Michael was apprehensive. But the concept was simple. Sidwell possessed legal influence, high-powered attorneys, and favors owed by judges across the state. He could promise Michael full custody, quietly and thoroughly. In return, Michael had to agree to a series of business-related decisions over the coming year. None illegal, none obviously sensational, but all calculated to undermine Sonny's long-standing relationships. Michael hesitated. This wasn't how he wanted to win. He wanted the court to side with him because of the excellence of his parenting, not backdoor negotiations. But as Willow grew more hesitant and Sonny began injecting himself into family problems again, often unpredictably, Michael began to rethink what he truly needed to safeguard his kids. He consented to Sidwell's requirements, silently and with a heavy heart. Sidwell's network burst into action like a well-oiled machine. One of the judges considering the case had a personal obligation owed to a Sidwell-owned enterprise. Another had previously ruled over a custody fight where Sidwell's team had been involved. In legal terms, nothing crossed the line, but the subtle pressure put to the system bent it just enough to favor Michael at every turn. Willow, for her part, didn't understand why the process suddenly seemed to shift. She knew Michael was a decent father. She also knew he could be stubborn, emotionally impulsive. But the court's rapid swing toward him, particularly the recommendation from the custody evaluator, felt forced, like someone had already made up their mind. She began to distrust the method. Still, she didn't fight it. At that point, the difference between her and Michael had grown so great that some part of her wished he'd win, if only to prove that someone in this family was capable of holding it together. The court's ultimate verdict came barely 3 weeks later. Michael was granted complete physical custody, with Willow maintaining supervised visitation. It was a devastating outcome, far harsher than anyone had anticipated. The judge noted Michael's secure home environment, his ability to offer structure, and the emotional volatility of the extended Corinthos family as grounds. Willow sat in quiet as the decision was read, her face blank, her heart racing. She wasn't angry. She was terrified. Something had moved, and she couldn't put her finger on it. That same afternoon, Sidwell visited with Michael behind closed doors. It wasn't a friendly meeting. There were no congratulations, no backpats. Sidwell simply lay out the next phase in their arrangement. Michael would divest from various interests connected to Sonny's surviving legal businesses. Some of their holdings included silent partnerships Sonny had in shipping and security organizations. Michael felt the knot in his stomach tighten. He wasn't just isolating himself from Sonny. He was helping Sidwell demolish Sonny's reach from the inside. He questioned it once, just once. Sidwell's remark was chilly and decisive. "You have your children. I have my justice." Michael felt the words ring in his chest for days. He had told himself that everything he did was for Wiley and Amelia. But had he passed a line? Or had the border been crossed long before he became involved? Things in Port Charles began to shift quietly. Sonny got suspicious of multiple contracts falling through, and Valentine warned him that someone was freezing him out. The docks started seeing fewer shipments. Payments were late. Security contractors began pulling out. Jason, observing from the shadows, started connecting dots and saw Michael's signature on numerous of the transactions. He didn't say anything at first, because part of him wondered if Michael had finally done what needed to be done. But another portion worried that something greater was at play. Meanwhile, Willow tried to bond with her children. Michael didn't block her, but he also didn't invite her in. She saw them weekly, always under controlled settings. She missed their birthdays. She missed calm bedtimes and pancakes on Sundays. Michael kept telling her it was simply till things settled, but the unspoken barrier between them revealed a different picture. Eventually, Willow started asking questions. When she realized that Grant Sidwell had sponsored Michael's legal team, she was astonished. She approached Michael, and for the first time in months they had a raw, honest talk. "You said you wanted to protect them. Willow remarked. But who's protecting them from the people you're doing business with? Michael didn't have an answer. Not one he liked. He sat with the silence and looked at the ramifications of every decision he had made. Each one pushing him closer to a version of himself that was frighteningly similar to Sonny in his prime. He remembered being a youngster, watching Sonny make brutal judgments in the name of family. He had judged him then, swore he'd never be like that. And yet here he was, using power and backdoor agreements to determine his children's fate. Sidwell meantime grew bolder. He began encouraging Michael to run for a leadership job at ELQ with Sidwell-backed shares supporting him. Michael refused at first. But the more Sidwell threatened to reveal the specifics of their arrangement, the more hazardous the situation got. Dante, skeptical of Sidwell's presence in Port Charles, began doing his own digging. He approached Chase with what he found: financial documents, secret payouts, legal favors. It was enough to start a whisper campaign. They didn't have proof of unlawful activities, but the optics were harmful. Then came the final straw. Sidwell wanted to buy a controlling position in the charity Willow had created for pediatric leukemia awareness, a project that had arisen out of her own cancer fight. He intended to utilize the foundation as a front for tax maneuvering and influence peddling. That was when Michael finally snapped. He convened a meeting. Sidwell, Valentine, Jason, Carly, Willow, all of them were there. He lay everything out. The arrangement. The custody win. The strings Sidwell had pulled. And he made one final declaration. I won't be used anymore. I won't mortgage my soul for control. Sidwell tried to stay tight, but Valentine cut him off with a single warning. You made a mistake. You thought manipulating the Corinthos family would be a clean play. You forgot one item. We never remained down. Within a week, Sidwell's empire began to unravel. Carly utilized her contacts to get a damning expose written. Jason made covert calls to allies in the legal field. Valentine began a hostile business move that froze Sidwell's finances. By the end of the month, Sidwell had left Port Charles in shame. But the damage lingered. Michael stepped back from ELQ. He granted Willow joint custody again. They weren't ready to be a couple, not yet, but they were recovering. Slowly. Carefully, rebuilding something more vital than strategy or power: trust. And Sonny? He never said a word. Not about Sidwell. Not about the businesses. Not about Michael's choices. But when Michael visited the facility with Wiley one afternoon, Sonny walked outside, nodded once and said, "You did what you had to do." And that was all. Port Charles breathed a little better after that. But no one forgot. Because in this town, the cost of success always comes due. And Michael had paid with pieces of himself he'd never get back. General Hospital recaps for Friday, June 20th show Willow Tate accepts Drew Kane's proposal, and Ava Jerome checks in on Nina Reeves. Also, Michael Corinthos and Christina Corinthos Davis catch up as they meet at the Metro Court pool. Willow accepts Drew's proposal. Drew arrives home after his run. Willow didn't even aware he was gone. She feels disoriented and tired. He offers to prepare breakfast for her, but she isn't hungry. It's challenging for her to think of starting her day without her kids. Drew reminds her they can still make things right and asks if she has thought about his proposal. She understands he wants to assist, but she doesn't see how marrying him will help her get her kids back. He confesses that asking her to fly to Washington was selfish. From now on, they should consult a lawyer for every decision they make. She feels like she is taking advantage of him. He reassures her that's not true. He would marry her anytime, but it's her choice. Martin Gray enters and explains why marriage would be favorable in court, and Willow recalls marrying Michael to protect Wiley Corinthos from Nellie Benson. Read more. Find out what occurred on the latest episode of GH. After Martin leaves, Willow senses a glimmer of optimism that getting married may help her get her kids back. Drew wants them to have the wedding of their dreams, but she urges him to marry her so they may reclaim her kids. It's hinted that she doesn't want to wait months setting up a huge wedding and squander time. They share a kiss. Ava checks up on Nina. General Hospital recap June 20th. Willow cracking in Curtis and Tracy plot. Nina visits the Jerome Art Gallery to check up with Ava, who inquires about how she and Willow are faring since losing custody. Nina says it is worse than anything she could have imagined and considers telling her the truth about her affair with Drew. Ava urges her to tread carefully as her daughter might not trust her, leading to a permanent loss. If that happened, Willow will only have Drew to rely on. Please don't go through with it, Ava urges, telling her about her recollections of her falling out with her late daughter Kiki Jerome, and Nina agrees. Nina is taken aback when she receives a text from Willow, requesting to meet at the pool. She hopes this implies a positive change of affairs. Read this. General Hospital spoilers. Daisy Corinthos' mystery stalker. Is Nellie Benson returning? Michael and Christina catch up. Michael and Christina are at the pool with Wiley, who's swimming. She reassures him that the kids don't grasp his thoughts regarding Drew. They discuss how all his memories of the past with Willow have been contaminated and cautions him not to let his wrath take control, as she is well aware of the ramifications. He senses she has done something and inquires what it was. She deflects, and tells him not to let Drew and Willow to take more from him than they already have. She encourages he focus on the fact he won and concentrate on the kids and their future. He still thinks Willow will reach a point she's safe to be around the kids. Wiley comes from the water and begs for a sandwich. They leave, forgetting Wiley's shirt behind. General Hospital recap, June 20th. Willow cracking and Curtis and Tracy plot. Curtis and Tracy plot against Drew. Curtis Ashford visits the Quartermain home and gives Tracy Quartermain an opportunity to knock down Drew, reminding her of the myriad publicity controversies involving Drew. However, Drew has been garnering sympathy since Tracy's imprisonment. She feels that's the reason Drew framed her. They analyze how he might have done it and the minimal proof available. If they convince Drew to take back his statement, the charges against her could be withdrawn. Tracy discloses that Drew made her a proposal, but she dumped it in the trash. She concedes that her lawyers are not enthusiastic about her predicament, and he adds that he has engaged a private investigator to locate Jacinda. They think she will verify that Drew acquired the medication himself. Michael arrives, and they discuss the situation and call Martin. Michael enters as they debate about the substance and adds that ketamine is used as a horse anesthetic, which in course could tie it to Tracy. They summon Martin, and she tears up her statement that had been written for the press conference they were intending to make. She assures him he can go with his press conference, and she is willing to commit perjury by reading his statement. They all exchange a sneaky look, sensing the sarcasm and irony in her selection. General Hospital recap, June 20th. Willow cracking and Curtis and Tracy plot. Kai tells Trina about Drew's job offer. Kai Taylor and Trina Robinson are lying in her bed. He discloses that he visited Drew to notify him on his medical updates. Drew was supportive and consented to halt the documentary. He voiced his regrets, and chatting with Drew made him realize that he is thankful for having done the operation, despite the outcomes not being as he had wanted. Drew has presented him with a clearer view of his potential future, and he has also extended an offer for a paid internship. She proceeds to investigate further, and he reassures her that he has no intention of leaving her to relocate to DC. Trina goes to the art gallery to talk to Ava as Kai takes the job after all. Later, Trina visits the gallery and informs Ava that Kai will never play football again. Ava worries whether this means he won't be as linked to Drew. Trina emphasizes that Drew has given him an internship. While she wouldn't dictate his choices, she feels happy that he has decided to stay. In the meantime, Kai goes by Drew's apartment and first denies the internship. He believes he can't leave Port Charles and Trina at this point. Drew points out that the internship is flexible. He would only need to come to DC a few times a year, and could act as his representative there. This is enough to persuade Kai, and he agrees to accept the position. Nina meets Willow at the pool. As Willow arrives at the pool with her mother, she discovers Wiley's shirt and begins to feel nervous, demanding that she must return it to him straight away. Nina spots Christina and urges her to come over and hand her the shirt. Willow fights to part with it and her words drift away. She gazes intently. Her mother presumes that Willow intended to meet there to encounter her children and gently reminds her that she is currently barred from seeing them. Willow answers that this predicament won't continue long. By the time the visitation hearing goes place, Sarah and Drew will be wed. General Hospital recap, June 20th. Willow cracking and Curtis and Tracy plot. Emma makes a friend. Anna and Sunny discuss baseball. Gio Palmieri and Emma Scorpio Drake are playing catch in the park while discussing the fears everyone has about him. Suddenly, a dog jumps up and grabs something from his bag, leading them to chase after it. They manage to catch the dog and learn it has no identification tags. Meanwhile, Anna Devane and Sonny Corinthos are also there in the park. She advises him that today marks a day of reckoning for him. They engage in friendly banter about their baseball team, with her stressing that he has minor league players on his roster. Their topic goes to Gio staying with her and how nicely he and Emma complement each other. Interim District Attorney Turner arrives and talks to Anna, as Sonny talks to Gio. Interim DA Justine Turner enters and informs Anna that she's there to represent the PCPD on the baseball team. She discloses that her real purpose is to network when Anna presses her. They debate the potential of being on the same squad, and Turner reassures her that their relationship will improve once Sonny is out of the picture. Meanwhile, Sonny approaches Gio, who reveals that Emma is currently gone seeking for the owner of a stray dog, and Sonny encourages him to join his team. Gio is aware that they normally play with persons he finds intolerable at the moment. Sonny emphasizes his wish to aid him in going forward with his life. Sonny persuades Gio to join the team. Emma returns with the dog and Sonny flirts with Turner. Eventually, he persuades Gio to come on board with the squad. Just then, Emma comes back with the puppy and adds that he doesn't have a chip. She snaps a snapshot of him to upload online in hopes that someone will recognize the cutie. "Are you referring to me or the dog?" Gio quips. As Sonny heads back to the pitch, Turner retrieves a ball and delivers it to him. Mocking her about her lack of skills, they exchange romantic remarks about her grin. The puppy steals Anna's hat and runs into Emma's hug. She says that if no one comes forward to claim the dog, she plans to keep him and name him Outback. How would you sum up General Hospital this week? With Sidwell bribing the judge in Michael and Willow's custody dispute and someone following baby Daisy, that was unexpected. And, where the hell is this going? Seem like suitable statements. Furthermore, it appears that the episode is set to deliver on what audiences have been waiting for, serving Drew what he deserves. Let's talk. Because the ABC serial cannot keep Sasha happy for more than a week, someone appears to be infatuated with her newborn Daisy. They started by seeing her in the hospital nursery, and then at the Quartermain's home. Viewers already assume Willow is to blame. As a nurse, she would have access to the hospital's nursery as well as knowledge of the QS mansion. The prevalent notion is that Willow's breakdown resulted in a split personality, which I thought would be a good tale idea long ago, but for a Who Shot Drew storyline. But it also works here, and it would be interesting to see Willow take on Nellie's mentality, or perhaps Harmony's as she obsesses over baby Daisy, considering that she has lost her own children. Are there any other plausible suspects stalking Daisy? Some speculate that Drew is plotting to drive Sasha insane in order to make Michael's home life appear unstable. Then there's Sidwell, who bribed the judge to grant Michael complete custody. I don't believe anyone saw that coming. What is Sidwell's motivation? Does he want all of Michael's children under one roof for some evil reason? Again, there could be a more harmless reason, which involves Holly, Sasha's mother and Daisy's grandma. Perhaps she snuck into town to see her first grandchild? Regardless of who it is or why, viewers appear to be unified in their desire not to see Sasha suffer any further as a result of the kidnapping plot. Someone should take Drew down. For months, people have been expecting a mystery about who attempted to kill Drew. Even I expected it to happen during the nurses' ball. With Trina and Joss ticking out the suspects that have beef with the congressman, it appears we are closer than ever to seeing Drew receive what he deserves. Trina's comment that she just hoped Kai wasn't around when, or if someone went after Drew appeared to be foreshadowing as well. But who will try to take Drew out? Many people believe Willow and a suspected split personality are the most likely suspects for killing Drew. Willow was released from the hospital in such poor condition, and no one noticed her strolling around bewildered and confused. She only says she is tired and that her life is meaningless without her children. Willow also appears to be missing time and writes, "I guess I went back to sleep. Hello everyone." Willow is exhibiting symptoms of clinical depression or dissociative identity disorder. Where's Kevin when you need him? Perhaps this is what will draw did expert Victoria Lord to Port Charles? With Drew convinced Willow to marry him, the writers have set up the ideal setting for Drew's demise: the wedding. It seems unlikely that anyone will attend the wedding, thus a would-be assassin may easily lurk and take their shot. Other storyline ponderings. Brooke Lynn's smack to Lulu was well worth the wait, as was Maxie's insistence that Lulu accept responsibility for hurting Brooke Lynn's child. It was good to watch Lulu make what appeared to be a heartfelt apology to Gio. But the young guy is still angry at his biological parents and refuses to believe that Brooke Lynn didn't want him. I give Lulu the tiniest, minuscule bit of credit for defending Brooke Lynn to Gio and explaining that not wanting to see the child you are giving up is a common protective technique used by birth mothers. It's a good thing softball season is coming, since it will force Gio, Dante, and Brooke Lynn to compete on the field. Brooke Lynn is looking into Britt stealing Dante and Lulu's embryo, and everyone is praying the authors don't modify Rocco's birth narrative and make Britt his biological mother. Currently, the writers of General Hospital appear to thrive on generating storylines that are unpopular with the audience. In other words, don't be surprised if something occurs. As Curtis tried to persuade Tracy to accept Martin's offer and publicly apologize to Drew, Michael pointed out that the substance Tracy was accused of slipping to Drew is used on horses. Given Tracy's love of riding and the Quartermaine stable of horses, did Michael provide Tracy a justification, at least to the cops, for having ketamine in her car? Willow Corinthos had spent the better part of the last few weeks telling everyone she was fine, smiling through the pain, convincing herself that time was a healer, and that she could simply will her life back into place after everything that had unraveled. But that was a lie she had told herself so many times, it began to feel true. Until now, something inside her was beginning to crack. It didn't happen all at once. It was slow, creeping like a hairline fracture expanding beneath the surface of calm. It started when she overheard Nina leaving another voicemail about brunch with Wiley, another forced attempt at reconnection, another reminder that the woman who had lied to her face for months was still trying to worm her way into the family. Willow had told Michael she could handle it, that forgiveness was possible, that boundaries were enough. But boundaries had never worked with Nina. She pushed past them. She guilt her way through them. And now Willow was seeing it more clearly than ever. Nina wasn't asking for a relationship. She was demanding one. Not for Wiley's sake and not for Willow's healing, but for her own need to rewrite the narrative. And Willow was tired. Tired of being the one to bend. Tired of carrying all the emotional weight. Michael noticed it first. The short answers. The distracted silences. The way she stared out the window too long when he talked about the kids. He didn't push, not right away. But when he found her crying in the laundry room late that night, clutching one of Wiley's shirts, he knew this wasn't just a bad day. Willow finally admitted she didn't know how to forgive Nina. Not really. And maybe she never would. Her heart still twisted every time she thought about the lies. About the months Nina spent hiding that she had turned Carly into the SEC. About the choices Nina made that almost cost Willow her family. And while part of her wanted to move on, another part wondered why she was the only one expected to. Michael held her close, but he didn't offer easy answers. He had his own complicated relationship with Nina, and Curtis had just made it more complicated. Curtis Ashford had been keeping things quiet lately, but that didn't mean he wasn't watching. Ever since his shooting and the resulting paralysis, he had been forced to reevaluate everything. His work, his marriage, and his sense of self. But the thing that kept gnawing at him was how tangled everything had become. Secrets buried in every corner of Port Charles, and people willing to lie just to maintain control. And Tracy Quartermaine, for all her bluster, had proven to be one of the most perceptive people he'd spoken to in months. Their alliance was unlikely. They weren't friends, and they certainly didn't share the same moral compass. But they had something else in common, a desire to expose the truth and a willingness to do what others wouldn't. Tracy, for her part, was furious about the way her family's legacy had been diminished in recent years. Between Ned's identity crisis, ELQ's vulnerability, and the constant drama between the Quartermaines and Sonny's family, she'd had enough.